What's that?
Did you get my picture?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
you're all set. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Steve Heater. I'm president of the Champaign County Camera Club. I work together with an awesome leadership team. We have a tremendous year coming up. I'm really excited about it. We have some really interesting subjects. We bring in some outside speakers, so we look forward to having an exciting year. For example, on our outings, we are going to have an outing over to Indianapolis. We're going to go to Robert's Camera in September, hopefully. We might push that off a little later, but as of right now, we're going in September. We'll spend a little time there, go get something to eat, and then if the weather's good that day, we'll go over to Eagle Creek, which is a park on the east side of Indianapolis. Some really tremendous wildlife photos you can get there. Meadowbrook Park, we're going to be there on October 29. The Urbana Park District has invited us to be one of their pop-up events for the 25th anniversary of the Wandell Sculpture Garden. So we're going to need a lot of help on that day to maybe lead groups through the park, maybe man a table where we can encourage people that don't know about us to look into us, maybe even join, and just kind of wander around and ask, answer questions that people might have. November last year, we tried to do a Sandhill Crane outing. We may try that again, or we may do something different. Weather and the cranes didn't cooperate last year. December is tentatively a Christmas light outing. We haven't really decided where. Last year we went to Allergan Park. We're looking into other places. And again, if anybody has any ideas of places you can walk to other than Allergan, we're open to that. January, we're hoping maybe we can do an outing, weather permitting, maybe a winter nature outing, or we can do an indoor venue. February last year, we did the Eagles over at Lock and Dam 18. Which was a tremendous experience. I recommend anybody that can go over there. We may try to do that again. March, we did a spring bird migration trip over to Emiquon. We may do something similar to that again this year. We have to discuss that yet. April, we typically do a wildflower event somewhere, wherever the wildflowers are going real good. Last year, we was over at Sugar Creek, south of Bloomington. And in May, we haven't really decided yet. We may do something, we may not. Speakers, we got some great speakers coming in. Chief Gordon Nord from the Chicago Fire Department is going to be giving a special presentation to us down at the Fire Institute. He is their fire photographer. He's going to be putting on quite a show that night, I believe. Bob Wiseman is going to give a speech on portrait photography in October. In September, Ray Silva is going to give a presentation on intentional camera movement, which is hard to do, but an interesting subject. And in November, he'll be back again to talk about black and white photography and editing. And we are planning to do a print salon in December. It won't be in this room, though. It'll be upstairs. Now, all that being said, to pull all this off, we are going to need help. We'd like to get help wherever we can. We need greeters at the meetings. We do have sign-up sheets up here. We need help with greeters. We need help with mentors that we can pair up with new members. And we are looking for a digital image coordinator. We typically have a chairperson, but we decided maybe it would be better because of travel and schedules and so on, that we will just do that for each individual competition and challenge. And if somebody decides they want to do it the whole year, that's fine too. But we thought maybe that would help split it up where it isn't quite so overwhelming. Now, I wanted to talk a couple minutes about communication, especially for some of the new members. Our primary way of communicating is through a Google group, email group, and it's you'll get an email later that'll explain it. Or be looking for CCC-County-Camera-Club@googlegroups.com. And then anybody can use that. Anybody can send out an email to that address. You just put that address in the two, and it'll go to every member. If you have some photo news, maybe a great event coming up, or hey, wow, there is a tremendous amount of birds, or the wildflowers are blooming here and there, or whatever. Or even if you have questions, hey, I'm having trouble with my camera setting. I got a Canon such and such. Can anybody help me figure out what's going on? We're always willing to help. We also have a Facebook and Instagram groups. However, as I'm sure most people know that use Facebook and Instagram, unless you pay, you have a hard time with engagement. So we may put the same thing on Facebook as we do on a Google group, but only 10 to 20% of you might see it unless you specifically go and look for it. I've also started a YouTube channel. I've been putting our meetings on there. I record the meetings, and within a week I try to put those up on YouTube with a private link. That'll be private for 6 months, and then it'll go public. We also use Sign Up Junius a lot for sign-ups and for outings and help we need. Now, I've just recently found out that on many of the sign-ups, it's a little confusing. If there's different slots or different dates, there'll be a box on the date or the slot itself that you have to check, and then also check the big box in the bottom that says submit and sign up. So there are 2 places you have to check. Speaking of new members, we have some new members here tonight. Bruce Griffith, here in the first row in the middle. Welcome. In the back, we have Denise Esworthy and Susie Bostic. And over on the other side is Brian. I didn't get your last name. Hopefully you will be willing to join. So that's all I had.
I've got something to add on that.
Okay.
I put some folders up front that are for visitors. So those of you who are visiting, if you want more information about the club, just grab one of those folders or come to me after the meeting, and I can help you with any questions, or if you wanted to get signed up to be a member, I'm the person. And there's also, for members, there's also books up here. If you're a member, you can buy one of these little books. It's like $8, and it's got all basic camera information in it. It's really good because it's got different steps on how to, like settings, or like specific on landscaping or flower or whatever. I mean, there's a lot. You can just kind of thumb through it to see if that's something interesting. You know, you can just put it in your camera bag, take it with you. It's a good, handy thing to look at. So that's up here. It's $8, and the money goes to Tom. Tom is our treasurer. There he is over there. There's also club brochures over here too. So if you know someone who might be interested, or if you want to look through it and kind of get an idea about our club, feel free to take 1 or 2 every meeting.
Now, I did want to see, why is that not?
Should I say something about SICA?
Sure.
Okay.
How do you get that to show up on the screen?
I'm our club representative to the Regional Camera Club Association called SICA. It's Eastern Iowa and Central Illinois camera clubs. Twice a year we have a salon. This year the Decatur Club is hosting it, which is, in my opinion, the most photogenic venue of all the, because usually it's like, when it's here, it's in the Urbana Library or the Shim. They're at the Nature Center near Decatur, so when you're not watching the competition, you can go out and shoot all the things in the Nature Center. That will be Saturday, November 5th, but we have to have our admissions in before that. I'm the print chairperson, and so I made up little labels for prints. Any of our new people who want to enter, it would be fine, but you probably need instructions on where to put the label, what size prints are admissible. There are guidelines, so just come and see. They have to be in by the 14th of October, so the 11th of October is when I'd like to have them at my house, because I've got to sort them all, fill out all the entry forms, and get them over to Decatur. So, and there's a digital segment to it too, but the reason I wanted to talk tonight is I'm going away to the Photographic Society of America for a few weeks, so when I get back in the end of September, it might be too late for people to get their stuff printed, their digital images printed into prints. So, thought I'd mention it tonight.
Showing that, but it's not showing.
Did you want any labels?
Tom?
I forgot to change
If we want to pay dues to
Yes, yes, actually, if there are current members who have not paid their dues, feel free to do that tonight, or in the future, if you don't have what you can check or cash right now, anytime tonight or in the future.
Are you sure we get this special?
Yeah.
Nothing's changed. Display settings. Should be showing off.
That's wonderful.
I know, exactly right.
Or you're using fast phone?
So which way do you scroll for the person who there? Have you picked up the digital here? I'm sure for the show on that screen. I mean, yeah. Okay, so.
Yeah, here.
I'll gladly try. Sorry.
There,
Oh, there we go.
Is that good?
good.
You know what? It's gonna move out of the way.
And how do we get to the photos?
Are the images on fast phone?
Well, they're on the hard
I just want to make sure that I check out the
Took the younger guy to
Okay,
try to
you
figure
did
it
also,
out.
and then you can give me a whole bunch of ones. And then in a couple weeks.
But just get a picture, and then you can keep it.
I don't want them. I was just gonna, I can get pictures of them, give them to them.
Just open fast phone here. We'll drag it over. Your mouse there, drag it. There.
I can check.
Okay, Bruce Griffith, these are your photos, so you can go ahead and give a brief description of the photos and just tell me when to move to the next one.
This was taken at Skydive, Arizona, at the U.S. National Parachute Competition in a pond, that's a new pond they just built, 4 million gallons of water for this event, for part of the event. what they have to do is they come through these water and they do different events. And a lot of times I don't know what I have till I get it in the computer because I'm shooting everything so fast. And this guy here, he lost his leg, got an artificial leg. He's done it before, he's lost his leg before on jumps, but I know a lot of skydivers that have artificial legs. Most of them are the newer type, like the titanium type of legs. And he's got the kind of the old style, but there's some that have 2 artificial legs. There's one guy that has no legs at all. He's almost up to the waist with no legs at all. He still skydives. They go out and get a wheelchair and wheel him in.
Next minute.
I've been doing this kind of photography for 8 years now.
Use the arrow key.
Yeah, use the arrow keys.
Here, keys did.
Arrow keys aren't working. That's odd.
Where did you say that was, Bruce?
Pardon?
Where was this at?
Skydive, Arizona,
Arizona?
in Eloy, Arizona, between Phoenix and Tucson. It's supposed to be the biggest drop zone in the world. They have 16 aircraft, big twin-engine aircraft.
Dylan, any advice, sir?
You always got to get the young guy up there to figure it out.
Yeah, go ahead. You can figure it out. Had it figured out on the laptop. Take into account the check. I just started.
I full-time RV for 13 years. I spent seven winters at this drop zone.
That's the wrong images.
There we go. There we go.
That's, okay, that's the wrong images.
Those are old images though.
Yeah, those are,
I'm trying
see, how do you get
Well, he's got that on the screen. That was one of our fall foliage field trips for the Camera Club. It's Lake Charleston at dawn. We didn't get there
Good.
quite
See,
at sunup,
see.
but it was a really fun, it was a really fun outing, so,
And then,
Is that your
There should be more
image,
folders.
Mary?
yeah.
and that's I-74 challenge. I got back pictures.
Nope, that's not it.
That's all he said.
Give me a moment. I cannot drag this folder for some reason. Full screen. There we go. I fixed it. And then which one do I need?
You want the 20 December images.
Okay, this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we did Bruce.
Okay. And then we'll go to this one then.
Oh, boy.
That's me.
And then,
I actually didn't take, that's one of the photographers. He's on the outside of the aircraft. There's a little step there on the, be the right side of the door. There's a rail that runs along the fuselage at the top. They step on this little step and they hold on to that rail and then they photograph. Him and I are always trading photos of each other. That's what I call my day in the office. We're at 13,000 feet. I do have a parachute on. Anytime I ride back at the jumpers, I have to wear a parachute. People ask, would you jump? I say, well, if it's a choice between going down with the aircraft, crashing or jumping, I'm going out.
So I can go to the next one. There we go.
That's him there. That's Raymond Adams. He's a well-known video. They call them camera flyers. He's a,
Underwater.
yeah,
I bet
He's,
that camera secured pretty well.
he's well known around the skydiving industry.
Also, fields for miles. Yeah.
So does he let go when he's done?
Yeah, he's gonna video some people,
Yeah.
you know, jumping out. They have what's called a bite switch. There's a thing that comes down into his mouth, and he uses his tongue to do the
Oh, really?
still shots. Yeah.
Interesting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anytime I point a camera at most skydivers, you're gonna get, this guy is, he's,
He must be on the ground then.
yeah, on that outside. I always wanted to get out there on the camera step, but, yeah, it's just, you know, they're such a great bunch of people to be around. I mean, they're just fantastic people to be with, skydivers. They're having fun, and just, it's just great to be around them. There's no negativity there, that's for sure.
We gotta get that bridge photo in.
The guy in the back, they call him Trump. He's another camera flyer. You can see the little wings he has on his jumpsuit there. It kind of helps stabilize him and keep him steady for, you know. Anytime I say group photo, you know. This is up at Chicagoland Skydiving Center in Rochelle. The guy in the front with the little dark helmet, he's a student. Just a candid photo. I get a lot of photos after they land and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
They usually ask how was the fall, how it was.
My two main lenses, I use one camera with a 24-70 and the other one has a 100-400 lens on it. I had a 600 millimeter for years, and I just sold it, so I'm getting away from the big stuff. That's just a guy with a wingsuit. Most skydivers never see photos like this when they're under canopy. They see photos in the air as they're doing their formations and stuff, but they don't get, I get so many people that request photos after they've landed. That's, there I'm sitting at the door. Again, that's a tandem skydive, of course. Yeah, you can see how high we are. I always say if I don't sign a waiver, it says I'm going to be killed or injured, and then I'm not going to photograph it. Sometimes I ride right seat with the pilot, and sometimes I ride in the back with the jumpers. A lot of times they look at the camera. When they say, if they see a camera, they're usually going to look at it. So this guy's going out backwards.
Is that the last one?
It should be the last one, yeah. Really.
Alright, I guess that's the last one then.
I've been as high as 19,500 feet with a big formation of over 200 skydivers. There'd be 10 aircraft in formation flying.
And that'd be a cool shot from below. Okay.
This is from the Master Gardener Walk. We had an outing in, I think it was May, maybe June. And really, I think it was about 10 houses you go to through the walk, and some beautiful flowers. So this is just a few that I took on that particular walk. Okay. Colors are really inspiring. And this is a house in Champaign. They had a lake behind their house. Kind of a pretty place. hard to take a bad photo here.
Yeah.
And then in July, I went to Grand Tetons in Yellowstone,
You can recognize that.
and this is Schweberger's Landing. And so, looking at this, I think it's the Snake River and then the Tetons right behind. And this is a trail to Heron Pond. And they let the water out of Jackson Lake over last summer, the end of last summer, in order to irrigate some farms in Idaho. So the lake itself and Heron Pond were very low, but the walk there was very, very attractive. This is Yellowstone Lake behind it, and this is called Storm Point. But
Yeah, I could totally see someone seeing a storm from there.
yeah, it was not too
That's
far a
That
walk.
is a
Now,
great view.
there's a lot of bison as you walk, and the week before, a woman was gored with a bison. But you're not supposed to go within 25 yards of the bison, so
I love that photo.
I tried to stay away if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Does that sound like a fun way to go?
And this is Grand Prismatic Spring. I think it's one of the largest, most colorful thermal features at Yellowstone. And you could see the spring up on the top and then the runoff. And these are actually bacteria that produce the strange colors as the oranges and things.
And,
But,
I've seen those like top down shots. There's like a really nice gradient from like this edge all the way in toward the center, where it's like a nice deep blue.
yeah. And then many of you went over to the sunflowers over just west of Mathis and north of I-74. And the Clearwater Farms, they have sunflowers, they have corn, they have wheat. So they have a number of fields, but they open their sunflower fields to anyone who wants to go there. And there's a path that goes through the sunflowers, so it's easy to get close to the sunflowers. And I think it may be like 10 or 20 acres of sunflowers, but a large number of sunflowers. It's right at sunset. And one of the flowers is just before they open. But the season is kind of short. It's the end of July and the beginning of August that the sunflowers are at their peak.
Yeah, they don't last. Oh, that's the last one.
These are from Kim Ormsby.
So this is at my mother's house. My mom had knee surgery over the summer, so I spent a lot of time at her house. But she lives in the woods pretty much, so I got a lot of pictures of, well, a few pictures of some birds and butterflies. And so this is one of them. She's got a butterfly bush, so I just kind of pulled up a chair and sat there for a while. Lots of pictures. This is at the garden walk that Jim was talking about.
Oh, we have some of those plants at our house.
And this was at the Missouri Botanical Gardens that we went to, Susan and I went to recently. The water lilies there.
Where's that located?
Missouri, St. Louis area, Susan.
That's all I know.
Yeah, that's all I know.
St. Louis area.
Yeah, St. Louis area. And they had, we usually, we've gone to the Chicago one. Chicago seems to have a lot more flowers. This one was more landscape, beautiful landscapes, a pond, lots of plants, not as many flowers, but it was still very nice, yeah.
But they have the glass things too, right? I don't know if they're
Yeah.
Chihuly or
The
what.
Climatron is what it was called, I think. And it was nice, but it was crowded.
Yeah.
Right.
I can imagine.
So you couldn't get a picture with no people in it.
Yeah, it was hard.
Well, that's a very tough.
Another bird at my mom's house. I don't know what kind it is. but-
Looks like a wren, house wren.
And this was, I just played around with Ray's talk coming up. I thought I would try some of my own intentional camera movement. So this is just I think this was a forest area at River Bend in Muhammad. So I think it was trees in there and just forest. And I tell you, it's hard.
It's almost like looking like really close up on like a leaf or something.
Yeah, I think this was all our foliage. Now, I did learn that I had to try to avoid the sky, because when I
Yeah.
get the sky in it, I get these white streaks.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
can
that
imagine
had to avoid that, but yeah, I thought that turned out pretty good.
It's nice, nice.
And then here's some prairie grass.
Yeah.
At River Bend. And you can kind of see in the upper right-hand corner, a little bit of that sky is peeking through.
Yeah, just a little. Not enough to ruin it.
And this is the sunflower field again that Jim was talking about. And what I did here, I tried something different. This is texture blending. So I took one of my photos, birds that I took several years ago, and I just added some textures in the back. I liked it. I liked the way it turned out.
Yeah, it looks great.
Is that on Photoshop? or-
Yeah, it's all in Photoshop. And then I did this one. I wasn't as happy with this one. The edges were hard to get around. Blend the edges right. I had trouble with that, but it was fun to do.
Is that Al from up at Chicago Area Photography School?
Caps, yeah.
In case you didn't read the email, I called them and they're not gonna have it this fall. They have it all after.
Lisa Stewart, these are yours.
Okay, yeah, I actually realized that I hadn't done much photography all summer, so, these are all very recent, and I think they're all from my yard. So this is, 4 o'clock. One of the few things that I was successful growing from seed 2 years in a row. I have a lot of different variations of the color. Just kind of like the way that one was backlit. And this is part of, so my backyard is all my mother's garden. I live in the house that I grew up in, and my mom was master gardener, so we are trying to maintain her garden. And, got a lot of pollinators. Another one.
Are you using a macro lens?
No.
Telephoto lens?
That is used to be colored. And I like to capture things as they're past their prime sometimes.
It looks sad.
Yeah. They're still colorful. I'm trying. This is in my bird bath. This guy has been a regular visitor lately, so I think I had to do that one through my kitchen window. He doesn't, sometimes it takes off if I open the door.
Is that a screech owl?
That's a Cooper's hawk.
Oh, Cooper's, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you can tell, but the little clump on the left is, the bird bath actually has a couple of little, like, concrete birds built into it, and sometimes he kind of talks to them.
Here we go.
Hibiscus. Yeah, there he is again, walking through his little friends. And I also, this is actually, I grew some sunflowers also from seed and got exactly 2 plants that survived. And they're really ugly, scraggly things, but we got a few beautiful flowers on them, and I like looking at that too.
Yeah.
Mary, you're up.
Okay. Well, I started my summer at folk dance camp up north of Chicago. And that's been canceled for 2 years because of COVID. So we were all dancing with masks on, but we were dancing in person. Next. And we snuck out one morning real early because it was only 10 minutes from the Chicago Botanical Garden. And this is their Japan Island and that bridge, the Japanese bridge that evil goes in a straight line, so they make it a zigzag bridge. And that's the little Japanese house over there.
This one right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's really cute. Next. That's one of their poppies. I photoshopped it because it
Yeah.
was
I was gonna say, it almost looks pastel.
Next. This is us all out at the Idea Garden.
I haven't been there. in a
John and
while.
Martha and Kim and I and Susan and Jim McInerney and this is us all photographing the Ilium. Some of us. And then I called the News Gazette to get our class reunion put in, and the reporter started talking to me and saying, "You have a really interesting high school class. Why don't you gather up some of your classmates and meet us at the new high school?" And so this is the News Gazette photographer here at the Robin at the side, and they did a whole story on us, so that was neat. And this is the vice principal, Dr. Gardner, in the foreground here. She offered to give up her Saturday, a chunk of it, to give us a tour, when nobody else would give us a tour because of the construction. She was so good. Next. And this is the end of our class reunion. We all met at Papa Del's. And more than that, we're at the reunion. This is just the stragglers on the last Sunday. So, and sunflowers. That one has a face on it with a fuzzy nose. And then I found some others with smiles, so you can go on. Like that one I really liked.
It's a little.
One little petal down and a really big smile. And then I decided to use them as making greeting cards, so I photoshopped some words on. Just love those sunflowers. That's all.
Ray Silva, you're up next.
Ooh, look at that eye.
Keep doing that.
It's a double crested cormorant, taken on a cove in Connecticut this past summer. I was able to get down to the lower dock. You have to be a big guy, and I asked him if I could get down there with him. Yeah, I'm not a boat owner, but he says, go ahead, as long as you don't stay too long. But I was able to get some pretty good close-ups and something at the eye level. This is a Funk's Grove, probably about 3 weeks ago. And just point out there's a couple of meteors left and right. And I've got a satellite, but it's probably not a satellite. It may very well be an airplane going through Milky Way. I just kind of lucked out getting a couple of meteors. They're kind of rare.
About what time was this taken at?
Excuse me, what time?
About what time was that taken at?
That was taken about 10:30, 11:15.
Oh, there we go.
Great blue heron. just happened to be in New Hampshire, visiting some family members, southern New Hampshire. Happened to come across some common loons. This one happened to have a chick, so it was kind of fun to watch. There's a couple of bees, a big bee and a little bee. And my brother-in-law got into photography, and he kind of scouted the area for the bald eagles, and they landed on this pine tree right at the edge of the lake every morning. So we got there, put our seats there, and just waited for him, and sure enough, he came. And it took him about probably 45 minutes before he decided to take off. But we were able to get a shot of him as he was taking off.
That's a great one.
This is the same lake, just at sunset. Same lake again, lily with a bee. And this is Kittery, Maine. This lobster shack is probably well known for its collection of lobster pots. The buildings you see in the back are actually in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. There's a river that separates the two states at this particular point. But this is probably one of the most photographed lobster shacks in the state of Maine.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
And this happens to be a tiger swallowtail. Just got him from the side.
These are mine. My husband and I, we spent this summer traveling for several, for a couple months and across several countries. Spain, Portugal, the Strait of Gibraltar, and then London, and then Scotland. So this one in Spain was where we spent most of the time, and we were driving. So we drove the area called, through the area called Andalusia, which is the south of Spain. And this area has lots of heritage, lots of influence of the Moorish people who were there and controlled the area for hundreds of years. So it's a very, very beautiful area full of history. In this area, there are several small towns called the white towns, and they just painted their houses totally white. Everybody does the same. And this is one of them, called Casares. These towns are very, not planned like the ones we see here in the US. They are just the streets, you don't know where you're going, you go down, you go up, lots of steps, lots of ramps. This is just an example of how they look like. This is another town called Ronda. And so normally you park the car up there, like in the first picture, and they don't allow you to drive down. There is no road. You have to go down the stairs around the house, down, 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 down. Finally you get to the bottom where you find the restaurants and the center of the town. People are very informal, very friendly. I remember in one of these towns we just had a breakfast there, and at the end, a wonderful breakfast, and at the end we asked for the bill, and the waiter immediately came back with, those bags of sugar, the paper bags, small paper bags, sugar paper bags, and he wrote down the total, and he said, here. This was it, very reasonable for what we had, and so everything is very simple, and there were lots of locals joking and having fun. This is Malaga. It's another, it's one of the larger cities there, and it's a beautiful place.
And it's the hometown, the home place, the hometown of the birthplace of Picasso. And Picasso was born there and moved to other places, but they have a museum there with some of his work that you don't find anywhere else but there, because at some point he donated some work there. And Malaga is by the sea, so has a different atmosphere of the other towns. This was from the place we rented. This was the view. It's a very nice place.
Yeah, that's a great view.
What time of day was that?
Oh, it was night,
Night?
yeah.
I think it might have been twilight.
Did you say something? I can't hear well. Anyway, yeah, it was night.
Then you use long exposure, I suppose?
Huh?
Long exposure?
No. Maybe the shutter was slow. I don't know, but
Okay.
not especially.
Not-
No. Half of the strip, I used my Olympus camera. And in the middle of the trip, I started taking pictures with my iPhone because I dropped my beautiful camera badly. And, well, this is another story. So this is in Granada. Granada is a wonderful, beautiful place with lots of history and lots of influence of the Moorish. The Moorish were African Muslims of Arabic descent. And this picture was taken from inside this palace called the Alhambra. This palace is a fortified palace where the Moorish kings lived in Granada in the 13th and 14th centuries. So they are very well kept. They are beautifully designed, so many details, so many beautiful things. It's just impossible to describe in words the beauty of this place. This is another town called Cordoba. Cordoba also is exceptionally beautiful. I like it particularly. And this picture was taken in what everybody knows as the Mosque Cathedral. Mosque Cathedral. Because when the Moors invaded the region in 785 something, they built this great mosque. It was a mosque, a beautiful mosque, huge area. And later on, the Christians took it back, but the good thing is that they didn't put it down like most of the time. You know, when religion takes over the other, they just destroy everything and build. What they did, they kept the mosque as it was and incorporated the Christian symbols and even a big nave, a big altar in the middle of it. So you see this huge area of these arches for the Muslims to pray, where they sit and pray. And then in some area you see this beautiful ornamented, huge altar with all these saints. You can see here, you have at the bottom the ornaments of the Muslim design. And on the left you cannot see well, but on the top. And then you have those, the windows, you know, that have, the themes are Christian and Catholic. Nowadays, this is also called, wrote down the name, it's called the church, the Cathedral of Our Lady of Assumption. Right nowadays it's called, and it belongs to the Catholic Church of Cordoba. But so they have masses and they have everything there, but I find it really interesting and a very good example of how two religions, they don't have to destroy each other. They can just live together and incorporate the beauty of one, the beauty of the other, and live side by side. this mosque cathedral is a really wonderful place. You can spend the whole day there. Was in the Strait of Gibraltar, which is, everybody knows, is a British territory, also in the Andalusia, in the south of Spain. And it's a very small piece of land, but it's heavily fortified. You have to go through long lines, you have to show your passport, and it's like 30,000 people only, but it's a very small area, and in the middle of it there is a big rock, big mountain called the Rock. From the rock you can see the whole area. This is just one side. And well, in a good day, you can see the other side of the strait where Morocco is. But it has to be a very clear day, otherwise you don't. But this is on the side, seeing just the closer part. And this rock is full of these monkeys. And they live out of the food the tourists gave them. And this one in particular, he had this package of crackers. It was so funny. And he keeps it very close to him and takes one very carefully and eats very slowly, keeping track of. It's very funny, these monkeys. And they just want to eat. And then we went to London and then from there to Scotland. In Scotland we just visit Edinburgh, which is the capital. Edinburgh is beautiful. It has gorgeous mountains and sea views and castles and cathedrals. And when we were there, they were having a golf tournament. So there was lots of tourists. So, which was not a very good thing, but it's a beautiful place to visit. And this is the streets in Edinburgh. So I don't know if this is a permanent thing but 90% of the statues in the city had this hat. So I don't know what was the reason. So, but it looked funny sometimes. This was in Portugal in an Art Deco museum. I thought it was interesting how the colors played their stairs. Portugal has beautiful museums. And then we went to London. There we brought our grandson Leo, and he stayed here in Champaign with the grandparents, enjoying Champagne in Chicago while his parents were traveling. And he kept us busy. I was not, I didn't remember when I had small kids anymore. He's 8 years old, so he filled up the rest of the summer. So this was our summer.
I did some traveling up in the Goshen, Indiana area. We vacationed up there for 2 weeks, and I do a lot of macro and nature and birding photography, and I just like this bee. Look like it's sticking its tongue out at us. I caught him in flight.
It appears to have stopped responding.
Froze it up again.
Yeah, it's frozen.
Yeah, this was at one of the local garden parks up there. They've got a lot of arboretum type things, and this was a very colorful lily in one of them. Lily pad flower. This was probably the most misidentified bird in North America. This is a female red-winged blackbird, and it had a spider that it was getting ready to likely take back to its brood. And this is a great blue heron. Apparently the water is slick. And actually this is in my wife and I like to do just random road trips where we don't really have a destination in mind. We'll go a couple miles, let's turn right here, we'll go 2 miles, that will turn left here. And we ended up finding a park in West Terre Haute, Indiana, called Wabashiki Field and Fish and Wildlife Area. And this place was beautiful. Blue herons and great egrets were very, very prevalent, and it was really fascinating to stand there and watch them. And as many of you know, I'm a storm chaser. This was up at Mahomet a few weeks ago, sometime in July. And this was there, I was right at the intersection of 130 or 136 and 47. If I had gotten up to Gibson City in time, it looked a lot better, but I just like the striations in this shelf cloud that's about to eat me.
A little bit like the clouds here and here.
Yeah.
Ooh,
And
there we
then
go.
I had to beat it south, and I found a spot, and I noticed that the lightning was getting intense, but I was going to have to move soon. So I just tried to do some handheld and hoped that I could catch the lightning when it's lit up. And by chance, I got a pretty good lightning strike there. I like the pink glow up in the cloud. This was back to Goshen again, Goshen area. And I can't remember what town this was in, and I have to look at the map, but I just like the pattern of these globes on these street lights.
Oh yeah, I can kind of see that.
And then this, again, was in our traveling up there. We did a lot of road traveling, and they had a very tall smokestack, and I got a different perspective of it, the reflection off the brick. And my sharp-eyed daughter happened to notice it. The bricks on the bottom are square, and the farther you go up the smokestack, they become more rectangular.
Oh yeah, I can totally see that now.
And I'm assuming that's for strength, but I don't really know what the reason is for the square bricks at the bottom. But in that area up there, they have what they call a quilt garden. And they'll have like a wood quilt up on the building somewhere, and then they'll have the quilt garden that matches a quilt pattern. But they had an artist come in, and every one of those gardens, he put, I think it's actually called a tilier, and these were so lifelike. I mean, the detail was just incredible. From a distance, you swore he was sitting there reading the Wall Street Journal and petting his dog. It was just incredibly detailed. And this robin, I got photos of this one also, it's taking off here, but I noticed it was catching ants. And it'd pick one up and drop it, and it'd do that a few times. You'd grab another one, it'd pick it up and drop it, and then pile it on top of the other one. And when it got about 4 or 5, about as many as the beak could hold, then it would take off like this. Go back to the nest. But it wasn't satisfied with just one.
Yep, I got it.
No.
Oh, oops.
She's
One
cold.
Give me a moment. There we go. Just did it again.
Oh, that's fine. So this was, and still is, Alaska. I took a cruise there this summer, and these are just some of the mountains. It's by Mendenhall Glacier. You can't really see the glacier there, but these are the mountains in the background. We took a little hike around the glacier area. This is Alfredo and Francesca, and they are a paired couple, and they were out on this remains of a shed that was down by the water. And there's a tree over to the left-hand side that had the nest with their young eagle in it. We didn't get to see the baby. I don't know how big it would have been, but so they were there for probably 45 minutes, just kind of sitting there and hanging out.
And they were named by the,
I don't know who named them, but they just told us it was Alfredo and Francesca, and I don't know which one's which.
I think one's female.
Probably, but I don't know which one's which. I can't
Female's
tell
larger,
apart.
it's probably the right one is a female, the way it looks.
Yeah.
This was, we were in the Endicott Arm, getting ready to go see the Dawes Glacier, and just cruising really slowly, through the fjords and everything. So this was just one of the areas there. It was just beautiful, all the little icebergs, I don't know if there's another word for them, the smaller chunks of ice that break off the glacier, were just kind of floating in the water. And this is kind of in the same area then. This was probably about 5 o'clock in the morning. We started cruising through there about 4 o'clock, and it was really, really cold, really cold.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
This is at Icy Strait Point. We were supposed to go to Skagway that day, but there was an avalanche that landed on the pier,
Oh, no.
so we could not go. So they took us to Icy Strait Point, and this was pretty much all there was to do. That was it. I don't know why they dropped us off there, but they did. But it was pretty.
I kind of like how the mountains are obscured by the clouds a bit.
Yeah, it was just foggy the whole time. Hardly ever saw the top of the mountains, very rarely. And this is the Mendenhall Glacier. So it is on the left-hand side of the glacier there, where that rock is. 10 years ago, it would have gone off the frame. It would have been that wide. It shrunk quite a bit in the last 10 years. There's markers on the trail that show where it used to be like 20 years ago. And it's incredible how much of it shrank. And while we were there, a chunk of it did break off, so it did calve. And that's, I guess, a very rare sight to see that I did not catch on camera.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Of course. But I did get to see it. This was on a whale watching excursion, and there were the sea lions just sitting on this buoy. And after I got home, I was looking at the pictures, I realized they're all beat up. I mean, they fight all the time. They're some of the meanest animals in the sea, and their chunks of their flesh are just missing. They just look dented and beat up. They're really kind of nasty.
At least the seawater keeps their wounds clean.
And that's at the, where's it? Clearview
Farms.
Yeah, so that was the day that we went out there, on the sunflowers there.
That's the last one. Oops, that's the wrong screen.
These are owls. I managed to knock these down.
Oh, it happened again.
Happened again.
Yep.
Great.
Keep it a moment. Delete.
There you go, there's your
Okay.
awareness.
Yeah, this is my backyard last May, and I just put this one in here to say, there's 4 Orioles hanging out. We had was a good year for Orioles for about maybe a week and a half or so, and then all of a sudden they're gone. It's like, here, boom, they're gone.
I guess they're migratory.
And
Pretty.
grosbeak, rose russet grosbeak, like the colors.
Yeah, that's a nice one. Yes.
And the day that the club went on the garden walk, I was out at Allerton and caught this swallowtail in their annual garden. And then for something a little different in the aviation department, this is a World War II bomber that visited Champaign back in July, I think. And I wanted to catch it in air. I probably should have just gone to the airport, and you went inside, didn't you?
Not this one here, but another one.
Yeah. But this one I camped out and just parked my truck at the Carl building at, let's see, it was at Curtis and Mattis parking lot as it came over to land.
Is that a B-25?
I don't know if it's a 25.
Yeah, it's the B-25.
25, okay. Thank you. And this is at Meadowbrook Park, and this is a female common yellowthroat.
Was that on our field trip to Meadowbrook or
No.
some other time? Oh,
No.
okay.
And
Ray
this is,
took us on a field trip of birding.
no, that was last year. This
Yeah.
was this summer. And this is the male common yellowthroat.
That's a very yellow throat.
And then, believe it or not, this is in Savoy. And this is one of the parents. And I think the next picture is, I think, yeah. They had 3 eaglets. And
That's unusual.
they're all standing there fighting for the branch. It's kind of fun to see them together. And then this is my backyard. It's fun. Once in a while they sit still.
Yeah. You say, yeah.
Now this is up in Michigan, where I took this just a couple of weeks ago. This eagle, and it's another young one, had been on the beach scavenging some fish down on the shoreline, and I tried to sneak up on him, right? Like he's not going to see me. But they have eagle eyes, you know. So he took off and went away from me, and I thought, oh damn, he's gone. Well, he did a 180 and flew right back over the top of me, and I got a whole series of these kind of shots. So I was real lucky. And this is one of my Goldens enjoying Lake Michigan. He likes the big water. And then this is just on the beach from the cottage we stay at. And when you want to define the golden hour, this is it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. That's
Okay,
gorgeous.
And the clouds made for a very dramatic sunset. And notice the gap along the water horizon. When the sun comes down below that, it just lights these things up. In the next picture.
Even the waves have gold.
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
So this is a panoramic. I think it's 3 or 4 shots spliced together. And that's what you get. It's just amazing. And to stand there and watch it all just take place. I should take a movie, I guess, but it's just,
I do love the bright red accent on the clouds. Oh, here we go.
this was shot from the cottage. You just get a variety of sunsets looking across the lake. It's just, every night it's a different picture, right? And, I think we're going past my 10, but,
Oh, whoops.
It's all right. Go ahead.
there is a woman down the beach that likes to sailboard, and she's really good. She's out there in the heavy water. She doesn't bother if there's no waves. Of course, if there's no wind, there's no waves.
Yeah.
You can't do it. And a successful fishing goal. Again, back in my backyard, this one, action shot, stopped action.
How fast do you have to shoot?
This was about
Pretty
1/3000th of a second. Gotta be fast to stop those waves.
Yeah. Yeah, even at 1/3000th, there's still just like a little bit of motion blur. You just about make it out.
Yeah, not much. And that's well, I think that's the same one. You can see this is a young male, because he's starting to get that red throat.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just starting,
There we go.
Yeah, you don't see them sitting very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any others?
You want, so I brought some extras if you want to see them, otherwise that's probably all we have.
I want to show something on the
Oh, sure,
website-
go
the
ahead.
website.
Go ahead, Jim. You need to do it.
Yeah, thank you. I've taken over again on the website, and probably most of you have seen this. Right up in the corner, we have the calendar events. And so if you want to see what our schedule's like here's tonight's meeting. But you can scroll down through and I put it through this, through December 31st. We have the meetings planned for next year, but if you want to see the whole year, you can go up here to calendar, and the months are here. And if you go to a meeting and click on it, it'll have a narrative of what we're planning on offering. So this is a good resource. It's champaigncamera.org, and then up here will be the calendar events or the calendar. Now on the first page, we use club members' photos, and with your permission, if you've submitted photos tonight, I'd like to use one or two of each of yours for this particular part of our web page. And then if you prefer not showing your pictures on the web, let me know when I email you and we'll not show them. But if it's okay, we'll put them here. And then every season we redo this. So this one will move down to here. This would be and then as you look at other pages, we have, well, we have with the other pages, we have the other images. Now, those of you who are members know that we use the word camera as our password. You have to spell it correctly.
Spell it right.
Yes.
Is it case sensitive?
That picture's Tom Fred's.
Oh, well,
It's
maybe
really
it's,
neat.
oh, cap lock, okay. Yeah, Tom Frey did this beautiful image. But, so we have more of these slideshows that come throughout. On this page, we'll have some Zoom recordings of our recent meetings. You just click here, and you'll be able to see those. and then other things that are of interest to you would be also on here. We also have a Facebook page. It's Champaign County Camera Club. If we have events that aren't camera events, but people have like a webinar they're recommending, or this last weekend was the Coles County Air Show, we'll put them on Facebook. But any of you can post on here. Any of the members can post on this page. So if you come up with something interesting, or if you have some good photos that you'd like other people to see, please post them on our Facebook page. We'd love to see them.
Speaking of events, last Tuesday, there was a webinar by Swimsy and Hunt's Photo that didn't come about because, a long story, well, there were technical problems. It's by Art Becker, who's a really good photographer. So they delayed it till tomorrow night at 6 o'clock our time. And I know Chris Main and Barb Sandell and a few people were on there waiting for them to be able to get the technical difficulties done, but people who were busy last Tuesday night can have a second chance to register. It's free, a free webinar.
Is there an email for registration?
Yes, through our Google Groups, there was an email that had the registration site for that webinar. It's a Southwest Michigan Camera Club that invited us.
Southwest Michigan Camera
Yeah.
Association, yeah.
But it's also posted on Facebook. If you scroll down, you'll see it. That's it.
Yeah, okay. Where do you want to knock it off here, or you show the other ones I had, or you want to just cut off the meeting here?
I think that's all I had to say.
Okay.
Next year, Mike, often wondered how some of the
We have just a little bit extra time. I brought a few extras in case we had extra time. My daughter, she has been running for the last couple of years, training, back more than that, about 3 or 4 years now. And this was this spring, her first half marathon. She did really well, by the way. I was proud of her. She looked really happy at that point. At that 13 miles, she didn't have quite the happy face. This was when we was up in the Goshen area traveling around. This was a common grackle I caught in flight. That's a killdeer hunting the mud flats. We was at one of those quilt gardens. It's on the side of a barn. There was a mud flat there, and I always check mud flats. And it was out there looking for some food. Again, those figurines are one of the places we went, had the Marilyn Monroe, and I couldn't resist. And this was my wife's reaction. And again, the traveling around, somewhere between Terre Haute and Danville, there was an old factory that used to make bricks. And they had all kinds of keep out, so I couldn't go in there to get better photos. But I don't know exactly what these structures were for, but there was a whole series of structures. And I guess these structures aren't used, but there is a larger factory in the back that is still used. It's pretty interesting. Back up in Michigan this time, we did a road trip up there when we were camping in Goshen, and that's a Caspian tern as it flew over. This was a very busy flower, a butterfly and 2 or 3 bees, another butterfly, so it was a very busy, evidently had a lot of juicy pollen and sap. This is my wife, who was at one area historic area. And they had a beautiful arbor made out of rebar. She was photographing some of the flowers. This was a dragonfly perch. Dragonflies doing what dragonflies do, making the next generation in flight, which is quite a trick, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's another photo of the female red-winged blackbird with the spider. This was a statue at one of the gardens we went to. And this is a leaf cutter bee. I can't remember the exact species, but that was a leaf cutter bee on a flower. Another blue heron again. It looks like they have a lot of trouble landing on water. Just getting to a stop.
Slippery when wet.
And that was another lightning bolt I got that same time as the other one there by Muhammad. This was again in Michigan. Al probably recognized it. It's one of the lighthouses, and if this doesn't say summer, it's my wife walking along pathway over to the lighthouse, people fishing, and just off of camera, they're doing construction. So yes, it is summer. This is one of the quilt gardens I was telling you about. They'll have these all over. Sometimes they'll have another one up on the wall, but other times they don't. Red-winged blackbird getting ready to take off. There's a gull carrying off a fish. And a song sparrow getting ready to take off. This was cool. Again, was on the beaches up there, Michigan, going up the coast, and this tall ship with the sails came in and got some photos of it, whole series.
Is it the one at South Haven?
I think this was at South Haven, yeah.
Yeah. Because we came sailing by one.
Yeah, we were at several of the lighthouses and beaches, but I think this was South Haven. And you know you're in Indiana when you see a turtle crossing sign. And again, this speaks summer, guy watching the sailboats, and just off camera he's got his fishing rods there in the water waiting for a bite. This is one of the lilies at one of the gardens up in the Goshen area. And this was at Bonneville Mill, I think it is. The mill's actually camera left, but this was the windmill and another big barn. That's it.
Is that a painted quilt or
Yeah, that's painted.
it almost looks real?
Yeah, it does. Well, all the artists, whether they painted them on the building or when they do lay them out on the grids with the flowers, they do an excellent job. That will conclude our photos for the night. Just a few closing remarks. Thanks everybody for coming, and thank you to the ones that submitted photos. And we welcome our new members. We hope you enjoy the club and the year, and we look forward to continuing on and having an awesome year. Thank you very
And our
much.
next meeting is?
Our next meeting is in 2 weeks.
And an outing on September 10th.
And the outing is on September 10th, yes.
I don't know if anyone's interested, but next month at Skydive Chicago, it's in Ottawa, Illinois. It starts around the 6th or 7th, is the U.S. National Parachute Championship. There'll be teams from all over the United States there. I mean, if you like to shoot people and colors and this, like I say, you point a camera at people, you'll get all kinds of reactions.
That would be a good event to go on a Google group.
If you like action.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about Labor Day. Our next meeting's in 3 weeks.
And it's raised, so it's good.
If you really want to go, I'm going October to the World Championship. World Championship.